John Rusbosin, an old-time member of Latrobe Country Club, and I've seen this area really rocking in the past, but this is one of the most historic gatherings we've ever had. So many friends and family, people that love Arnie Palmer, love the golf course. We welcome you. Now, to start our chat, we've got to mention a couple people. We love our sponsors, but the people that had this concept come to Latrobe. Remember Arnie. Keep the legacy of golf going was our convention chair, Bob Muir. If we give Bob Muir a little round of applause. Now, I think we all know and love Dr. Bern Bernanke, National President of the Golf Heritage Society. This organization is growing, it's getting stronger and stronger, and as we look around this room, we're full of people that love to collect items, something important, something personal to you. Today, we've all had the opportunity to collect the most important thing in life, new memories, making new friends. Congratulations to all of you. You've made this a tremendous success, and we've got a lot of phenomenal memories. Now, to get into our fireside chat, and again, Dr. Bern Bernanke, thank you for your leadership. We appreciate it. And how did you win a medal? I want to know that. Congratulations. So we're going to turn it over to a good friend of mine. And before I do, I've got to mention Doc Giffin. Over the decades, I did get close to Arnold Palmer because Doc mentored me. He told me you had to follow procedure, protocol, do it in writing, never knowing that everyone that did it in writing to Arnold Palmer was saved. So if you did it in writing, it was in our history. So I have to thank Doc for all you've done for me. And my good friend, the voice of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Pitt Panthers, and probably more important than anything else, the best friend of Dick Groth that he could ever have. I'm going to turn it over to start our conversation to the one and only legendary Bill Hillgrove, and a GHS member.
Thank you, John. Having watched some of the golfers come through, I can say this with a lot of confidence, that it's easier to watch bad golf than it is to watch bad football. I'm an expert on bad golf. I played it all my life and had so much fun in doing so. We're here to remember, and when you say heritage, golf heritage, you probably can say the name Arnold Palmer. It's almost interchangeable. And I remember when, after he had designed the Treesdale course up in the North Hills, he flew in on a helicopter, and they had a tent set up with all kind of media people, and he talked about the course and any questions. Well, this national golf writer, kind of a wise guy, said, well, Arnold, what about your unorthodox swing? And Arnold he didn't bristle, but he kind of drew back and said, unorthodox. I found something that worked for me, and you have to admit it worked pretty well. That was Arnold, and that was his sense of humor, and he got right to the point, and there was no further questioning in that line of thought. And, you know, Arnold was always great to me. I first met him during the 1965 PGA, which was played at Laurel Valley. And I had always stood in awe of the man, but to meet him as a human being was a very, very special thing, because that's what he was. Above all, he was a great human being. And, you know, he related to the media as well as anybody. And I just said to a fellow back here a moment ago, if you could define Arnold Palmer and cut to the chase, get to the bottom line of Arnold Palmer, he brought golf to the people. And I think that was his legacy, that was his heritage, and that's why it's always a pleasure to walk into these hallowed halls. I think we can begin tonight with a lifelong friend of Arnold, starting in 1964, and he spent a lot of time around the king. And so let's bring up Mr. Jim Rutkowski Sr. Jim.
Thank you very much. I have on a chair here, I'll talk to you a little bit later, but everybody is familiar with Arnold's Army, okay? I met Arnold in 1964 at the PGA in Columbus, Ohio. He was battling Jack Nicklaus. They came in second place, and Bob Nichols won first place. But one of the reasons I went there is a friend of mine said, we're going to see that. And my next door neighbor, she was 90 years old, she says, if you see Arnold Palmer, could you get me an autograph? I says, I'll try. So we went to the practice range, and we did not find Arnold there at the practice range. I saw Ben Hogan. He came out for the first time after his automobile accident. After the tournament was over, I walked into the parking area where the participants, and Arnold was there packing his golf clubs to come back home. And I approached him and I told him who I was, and I told him the situation, that this lady's 90 years old, and could I get his autograph? He not only gave me his autograph, he says, wait a minute, he gave me a picture, autograph to her. He says, that's not enough. He gave me a golf ball and signed it for this lady, 90 years old. And that's, I believe, how everybody loved him as Arnie's Army was formed bigger and bigger, and it just grew. That's one of the stories that I have to tell. The second thing is this rocking chair. 1911, we're in this room for Adelphi, and over where the silent auction is, that chair was there. Not this one, there was another one. And Kit come up to me and says, boy, Arnold would like that. So I was fortunate enough to buy it through the silent auction. And the next day, John Rusbosin brought it into Arnold's office, or downstairs, excuse me, in the men's room downstairs, and we presented it to him, and he gave me a picture, or I have a picture of him and I that he signed, and he was very appreciative. Well, fortunately, I was elected the Spirit of Hope Award the following year. And I was in this room, and I accepted the award, and Arnold came up to the stage, and he brought this rocking chair. He says, this is for you. So that's how that came, and he went to his office the next day, and I had him sign it. And as far as I know, that's the only of 4 rocking chairs that are in existence, and the only one that is signed. So that's a little story about that. So, and we were... And we had a lot of good times over the years. I think one of the other cute stories that he flew up to Erie one day, and we were involved in a cancer project, and he was interested in what we were doing at the lab. And I took him over to my gun room, and I give him one of my guns. And it was a Colt 45 in a presentation case. And after it was all over with, they're flying back from Erie to Latrobe, and Pete's flying the plane, his pilot, Pete Lester, and Arnold goes up, he says, what are you doing? He says, I got this gun. He says, I'm going to hijack the airplane. And Pete says, sit down for Christ's sake. He said, you own the damn thing. So that's just a few stories I have to say. Thank you.
Jim, tell the story about the Congressional Medal of Honor.
Yeah, we flew down to Washington, D.C. when he got his Congressional Medal of Honor, and after the award, we went to a luncheon that they had for his guests that attended that, and Georgie and Gina, his secretary, they went to the ladies' room, and they came back, and what they're doing, they're carrying the award. Kit went to the bathroom, and she left it in there. So the 2 women come out and told Arnold, hey, your wife left your medal in the ladies' room. So, yeah. Thank you very much.
Jim Rutkowski. Thank you, Jim. And by the way, Arnold's 30-year gatekeeper is here tonight, Gina Verone. Gina, would you stand up and take a bow? Stand up and take a bow. Gina, very, very loyal. I said, would you like to talk tonight? She said, nope. 30 years, it's private, it'll stay that way. We respect that, Gina, thank you. Now, a person who was with him almost every day, or practically every day, and a guy who was a sports writer for the local paper and covered golf, and then I guess Arnold decided, hey, you're interested in this sport, why don't you just be my right-hand man? And lo and behold, he was for many, many years. Would you say hello to the legendary Doc Giffin? Doc, come up and share a story, please. Stay back there. You're trapped. We understand that.
Great to have everybody here. It's really wonderful, all the great supporters of the game. It wouldn't be a good game without all the great support of the fans, and particularly those of you who are avid fans, because you're an avid fan when you're a collector, that's for sure. But we are very proud of our golf course and our club here, and we hope you enjoyed the golf out there today.
What was it like to have lunch with Arnold Palmer? You did it quite often.
We had a pretty regular routine. About noon, we came over here to the club from the office, which is right across the street, and Arnold had a Kettle One and soda, and I had an Arnold Palmer. Because I was still working, I didn't dare drink on duty. And a lot of good conversation, and he had a special table downstairs that we always had lunch. And then at the end of our day, he invited me up to his home, which is right above the office, and we would have what we called debriefing. And that involved a beverage or two.
Imagine that.
And the beverages were great because he made them, and they were strong. I got home safely every night. My wife recognized that. But it's great to be here tonight, and thanks for everything.
Doc Giffin. Several years ago, University of Pittsburgh basketball team was involved in March Madness, and it was in Orlando. So we had a chance, thanks to the kind offices of Jim Duratz, who was a very good friend of Arnold's. We had an audience with Arnold in his office at Bay Hill. And it was delightful, and my brother attended. Dick Grote was there. Dick, a longtime friend of Arnold's, but my brother had never met him, so he was in total awe. So we were there probably about 10 minutes, and finally he thanked us very much for visiting, and he stood up from behind his desk and yelled to the next room, "Oh, Janet, it's Kettle One time," which meant that was the end of the day. And that was a memory that I will always, always treasure. Also, one time, Mr. Grote and I were playing number 18 at Bay Hill, and we ran into Winnie Palmer walking the German Shepherd. And we came over and, "Oh, Dick, good to see you." And he introduced me, and I said, "Mrs. Palmer, nice to meet you. What's the dog's name?" She said, "Prince, because he's the king, and I'll be damned if I let people call me the queen." We have a member of the family here tonight, and so let's say hello to his sister and get a sisterly insight from Sandy Palmer Sarni. Come on up, Sandy.
Seeing this crowd warms my heart because my brother, my whole family, would be thrilled with having you here, knowing the Heritage Association and the enthusiasm that you all obviously exhibit. As the baby, and I want you all to know that I am the baby of the family, I welcome you to Latrobe. I hope you come back. I hope you enjoyed the golf. The spirit of the Palmer family is here. In fact, most of the Palmer family is here. We have the ashes of all my family spread on the golf course. That's why it's such a beautiful golf course. Welcome. Thank you. And it's been a joy to have you here.
Thank you, Sandy. A longtime pal of Arnold's, John Rusbosin, probably has a story or two to share with us. So John, come on up and enlighten us with some AP info.
Just to clarify the Jim Rutkowski story, when Arnie got that rocker down at the men's grill, we're giving it to him. I think Colonel Mueller, a couple military guys passed it on. He was so darn thrilled, he grabbed me and pointed to Jim Rutkowski. He says, John, Adelphi is so lucky to have my buddy in your corner. And the next year you did get that award, Jim. Remember that? It was amazing. But as you're in this hallowed grounds, so many things have happened over the years, and this community has benefited dramatically. And some of the stories you're going to hear from folks happened right here in the room. The Spirit of Hope Award, Bill Hillgrove was a winner, Jim Rutkowski, Bob Ford, the Arch Abbot, Bill Mazeroski, Dick Grote. Some tremendous people have been honored with that award. It happened right here. And many folks here that are collectors, you either knew Arnie, you loved him, you heard about him, some of you had met him. There's so many stories right in the room. I thought it'd be nice to share my story. How did I meet Arnold Palmer? And just like Bill Hillgrove in 1965 with the PGA, I worked at Laurel Valley. I was a caddy. All of 1964, I never saw Arnold Palmer, and I always wanted to see him. Finally, in 1965, and I saw him 4 times during the tournament. But 1 week before the tournament, George Love, one of the founders of Laurel Valley, said, send Rusbosin down. I go to the first tee at Laurel Valley, and who's there smoking a cigar with caps like some of these good-looking guys here are wearing, which you shouldn't wear inside the room here, by the way, for Arnold. This guy's got a cap on, he's smoking a cigar, and one of the other guys said, that's the guy that was in the accident, Ben Hogan. So I go to caddy for George Love and Ben Hogan. We get to the first hole, Ben hits it right down the middle. Beautiful shot. Next shot, right over the flag, probably about 50 feet long. As a young caddy, I didn't realize they tricked the course up for the PGA. The greens are a little faster than you normally expected. Ben Hogan gets up there, I'm tending the flag, he looks at that putt, and all of a sudden he walks away, goes into the sand trap to the right. I look over and I see Ben there, I'm thinking, what is going on? He gets out of the trap, goes down to the fairway, and a lot of us know Laurel Valley. He's reading the green from the fairway. And I'm thinking as a young kid, oh no, we're out here for 7 hours, who is this guy? Finally gets back to his putt. He hits a putt, and I says, that's going to get halfway here, forgetting they speed the greens up for a big event. As the ball got halfway, it seemed like it was picking up speed. So as a good caddy should, I go to pull the flag, it won't come out. And then I yank it. All of a sudden, the actual inner lining, the metal inner lining, lifts above the hole. I pull the flag, the lining drops back in play, the putt gets to the edge of the hole, it drops in without hitting the liner. I was so relieved. I felt so good, it worked out. I'm walking off, and I think Sandy and Vin know as you're heading to 2, you sort of veer to the left. I'm just getting off the green, and I've got this arm wrapped around my shoulder. And I'm looking to the right, I'm eye to eye, nose to nose with Ben Hogan, and he said in a very firm, straightforward way, son, you always have to make sure that flag is loose. If I would have hit the flag, if I would have hit that liner, I'd have been penalized. And I said, yes, sir. I walked off that to the second hole, and for 18 holes, I don't remember Ben Hogan saying another word. But he shot a 69 that day in a practice round. I went home and told my dad, I just saw the guy that's going to win the PGA. He didn't win it, but my gosh, he played in it. Now let's jump forward. about 12, 13 years later, here at Latrobe Country Club, I did get to see Arnie. I got to meet him here. Doc Giffin approaches me. He says, John, Mr. Palmer would like you to be on the men's golf committee. And I was honored, thrilled. I couldn't believe it. I says, yes, Doc, I'll do it. So here's this young guy in his early 20s, asked to be on the men's golf committee. We come walking in right over here to the big table with about 12 seats, and I walk in with these old timers, 40, 45 years old guys. I'm sitting with these old timers. They were the decision makers in the region, and I'm sitting down and we're getting ready to start, and I'm overlooking the 18th green. And what happens? I have another strong arm right around my shoulder. And again, I turn and look, and it's Arnold Palmer. And he said to the folks, thank you for volunteering your time. We appreciate it. And by the way, men, when you're done, drinks, food, whatever you want's on me. And my gosh, we enjoyed that food from Arnold Palmer. And I can testify all of his life, he was that generous soul. He wanted to give back. He wanted to recognize folks. And when he asked me to be on the golf committee and Doc Giffin pushed that opportunity to me, I think that got me involved in so many things, charitable things, built my confidence, and I thank Doc, Arnold Palmer for the experience. Bill?
I saw this story in a book. I believe the book was Jack Said to Arnie, and great golf stories, and one of them, Arnie was with Winnie at P.J. Clark's in New York City, and he was, as he always did, minding his own business, and he heard a voice from a couple tables away get loud and say something like, you know, these guys wouldn't shoot those scores if they played for their own money. They play for that big pot of gold that the PGA puts out. And Arnold tried to ignore it, but it kept up and kept up. And finally, and the gentleman he was just got up and walked over to the guy's table and said, sir, I just called Bethpage. We have a 10 o'clock tee time. Me and you, $1,000 a hole. It stopped immediately. Bern Bernanke has a couple of words, and we also have an award, or not an award, but a donation to talk about. So Bern, why don't you take the mic?
Thanks so much, Bill. Bill, thanks for coming out and being with us. Absolutely. Voice of the Steelers, voice of the Pitt Panthers, and another Central Catholic crowd. Here we go. I just want to say a couple words. Thank you. I want to say thank you to the family. I want to say thank you to all of the foundation who helped us at First Tee Pittsburgh raise a wonderful building for the youth in Pittsburgh, for the First Tee of Pittsburgh. It's fabulous. Come to see it sometime. I want to say thanks to John Rusbosin. I want to say thanks to the Arnie's Amigos, all 7 of them. I want to say thanks to Bob Muir. Bob ran the convention. It's going really well. And I want to say thanks today to Arnold Palmer for the weather. Thank you. The Arnie's Amigos put together an idea with me about have the putting contest with different era clubs and balls matching. We had so much fun with it. So they said, well, let's do it for a little contest and raise a few bucks. Thank you, guys. I want to thank you because there's $600 after we gave $200 and $200, and we're going to give half of that to the Winnie Palmer Cancer Foundation.
I want to thank you for your attention. John Rusbosin said that maybe there's an Arnie amigo or two that might have a story or somebody that wanted to say something. We can kind of open it up for a couple of minutes if anybody has something to share with the group. I got you. All righty. This used to be Steeler Man, but that was back in his old life.
Right. With capes and nylons, no doubt about it. Thumbs up to Arnold, right? We're in his backyard, man. Did you feel him out there today? He was staring at you, man, going, go for it. I'm a golf writer. I filmed some of you today. I'm also a golf journalist. But I grew up in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. I grew up here. And every time a plane would leave from Latrobe Airport as a kid, everybody said, there goes Arnie. Because he was the American dream, right? Just some kid who came from Latrobe, because we're all steel mill workers around here and coal miners. We're gritty people. Arnold Palmer was gritty. He went for it. He didn't lay up. He didn't care what you said about him, Doc, or what you wrote about him. But there was that little thing out in Colorado where he drove, you know. That was Arnold Palmer. But when you take a step back now that he's left us, you have to think not about what he did for Masters at Augusta, because he liked the golf course. Only God knows how much money Arnold Palmer raised for charity over the years. And that was the testament of the man, because there's an old saying, money doesn't make a guy. Money does not make a man, it unmasks him. You can give a guy $4 or $5 million and he thinks he's special. We've seen those guys, right? He's got some money in his pocket. Oh, I'm special now. Money unmasked Arnold Palmer, your brother. It unmasked a good guy. Witty was beside him at children's hospitals. The time he put in. Doc, if he had all the time that he spent on autographs, and I've got a few of them, back, the man gave up 20 years of his life signing autographs to people, kids. He was a good dude, and he wasn't, fake or manufactured. What you saw from Arnold Palmer is what you got. He was rolling around these hills. You guys came from Colorado, right? San Diego, Minnesota, you came around. These mountains you're in right now was his home. I asked him one time, I interviewed him across the street. I said, well, you could live anywhere you want. Why are you here in Latrobe? And he pointed to a tree. And he goes, you see that tree? I leaned up against it and shot a deer when I was a kid. This was home to him. He was a good man. So now I'm going to tell you my Arnold Palmer story, right? So I'm a golf journalist, and golf's been good to me. I've been from Costa Rica to Thailand to South Africa to Ireland, and I'm the world's worst golfer. I'm a solid 47. So the U.S. Open, not the last time, Doc, but the time before that, was in Pittsburgh at our venerable Oakmont again, and Mr. Palmer was doing interviews at his home. So Gina, of course, was the gatekeeper and whatnot, and I had my time to be in Latrobe, however you want to say it. But I'm in Mazatlan, Mexico for a whole week, and I'm drinking, and I'm having a good time, and I'm playing golf, and I'm sunburned, and I'm on a plane from Mazatlan to Dallas, and I got to be in Latrobe, Pennsylvania to do an interview with Mr. Palmer. And I was in the Army for a while, so I'm always early for everything, half hour. I get stuck on I-70, which is just south of Pittsburgh, and I'm trying to be to the office, let's say at 10 a.m., on time. But there's a traffic jam, my cell phone dies, and now I'm late, and I'm sweating because I got to interview the king in his court right across the street. Oh my God, my camera guy's waiting for me. I know Doc's sitting there like this. Gina's sitting there going, where is he? Finally, I come running up the driveway across the street, and I'm soaking wet because I'm embarrassed. My mother was probably embarrassed. My father was probably embarrassed. I come running up the driveway, and I'm soaking wet and hungover, being honest. Gina looks, she goes, Randy, where have you been? I said, oh, there was a traffic accident. Doc looks at me, Randy, where have you been? I run in the backyard, and my camera guy's there, and another Pittsburgh reporter had stepped in just about to ask the first question. But I slid into home base, and I made it in time, right? And even the journalist who was gonna start looks at me like, are you kidding me? You're late to interview Arnold Palmer in his house. Yeah, I am. So I go to sit down, and I go, how you doing, Mr. Trevino? But if you know Arnold, he knew my name was Randy. He goes, good, Fred, sit your ass down. Yeah. So that was Mr. Palmer, the man. What you saw with him is what you got. And again, his legacy to me is not what he did on a golf course. It's the untold millions and millions of dollars he helped raise for other people. And that's the message to me of Arnold Palmer, what he did for other people. God used golf to help Arnold, to help other people. So, to the king.
He certainly did a lot for his fellow golfers, professional golfers, and we have one amongst us, a Texan who was a multiple winner on the Champions Tour and also a winner on the PGA Tour, and you know the name, a familiar name in golf, Mr. Reeves McBee is with us tonight. Is he in the room? Reeves! So nice to meet you.
I'll tell you what, I'm so happy that I showed up today to see this large group attending a Golf Heritage Society event. I've been a golf collector for 30 some odd years, and that reminds me of a story with Arnold. We were down in Georgia playing the senior tour, and I heard that the young assistant pro in the pro shop had an Arnold Palmer designed by putter that he was trying to sell. I went down and I told the young man, I said, I'll give you $750 for it. He said, well, that sounds good, but he says, I really don't think I want it. I've got to make it up in mind. I'll make a decision tomorrow. Well, the next day I go down and I said, well, have you made a decision? He says, yeah, Mr. Palmer got 30 drivers in the last night, and today he was down shaving the faces off, and I'd love to have one of those drivers. I said, well, let me see what I can do. I walked down on the practice tee, and Arnold and Royce were down there working out. I asked Arnold, I said, Arnold, can I buy one of your drivers? He said, well, what do you want one of my drivers for? I said, I can't lie to you. You've always been good to me. And I said, there's a young man up there in the golf shop's got an Arnold Palmer designed by a putter, and he wants to trade for one of your drivers. And he said, if you can get it for me, I'll trade you. Arnold said, he wants one of my drivers, right? I said, yeah. He said, Royce, take this driver and run up there and get that putter. So Royce ran up to the pro shop. He came walking back after a while, and here he's got that putter in his hand. He hands it to Arnold, and Arnold looked at it, and he took a couple of swings. Of course, he's only got about 180 of those things over in the barn, I'm sure. Doc would only know. Anyway, he looked at it, and he put it in his bag. I said, what are you doing? I said, I'll give you $750 for it. He said, it's my driver, it's my putter. I think that's why we love the man. But what made me love him even more was right here in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. When we played Laurel Valley in the Senior Open that Orville Moody won, I watched a gentleman on the 18th hole finish up, and it took him 2.5 hours to get to the locker room. Arnold had missed the cut that day, and it took him 30 minutes to get to the top of the cart path, and it took him another hour to get to the clubhouse, and then he sat out behind this clubhouse in the sun, and it was hot. I want you to know it was really warm. He sat out there and signed autographs for another hour and a half. You used to mention the autograph signing and everything. He always tried to make sure people got autographs. Well, he came in the clubhouse after 2.5, 3 hours of signing autographs, and I asked him, Arnie, aren't you tired? He said, I'm not coming back over the weekend. I missed the cut. And I want to make sure everybody gets an autograph. That's the kind of gentleman he was. We miss him. We loved him, and I'll guarantee you, there was nobody can take his place. But I will say this, there's a good possibility we've got a replacement. If he continues to play, the gentleman is a class young man, and that's Jordan Spieth. Thank you. You're welcome.
So I want to thank everybody for coming, but I grew up over the mountain just on the Johnstown side, and I grew up beside a golf course, and the head pro told me a story about Mr. Palmer. In February of 1958, Arnie was a relatively unknown golf pro. So the head pro from North Fork Country Club, just over the hill, called Mr. Palmer and said, "Can you come to our course in May of 1958 and put on an 18-hole exhibition?" Mr. Palmer agreed to do that, and the fee was $400. Well, the historians in this room know that 2 months after February was April of 1958, and Arnie won the Masters. He's the Masters champion. And the head pro at North Fork started getting a little nervous. He called Arnie and said, "Arnie, you're the Masters champion. What's it going to cost us?" Arnie said, $400. So Arnie, the Masters champion, didn't raise his fee, honored his commitment, drove over the Laurel Mountain, and put on an exhibition for the folks in Johnstown. And he didn't charge a penny extra. That's the type of man he was. And that's why we're here. That's why we speak with reverence about him. And we're honored to be here. We're thankful that we were allowed to play here. And we want to keep his memory alive. And we want to come back. We'd like to come back in 3 or 4 years. And I think that would receive overwhelming response from our group. So.
Yes, Bert.
That's good, but show me.
Show me. All right. I think that's a pretty good show of hands. Arnold's competitive spirit was one of, you can't defeat me, I can only defeat myself. And Dick Grote, who played a lot of shortstop for the Pittsburgh Pirates and a couple other teams, his accomplishments included 2 7-game victories over the New York Yankees, one with the Pirates in 1960 and one with the Cardinals in 1964. And I said, "Dick, how did you handle the pressure of those moments?" He said, "Well, the baseball part wasn't bad." He said, "Pressure is being Arnold Palmer's partner in the Pebble Beach Crosby." Twice. He said, "That's pressure." And that just told me something about the spirit of Arnold Palmer. This doesn't include Arnold, but it's one of my favorite golf stories and a true one. Doug Sanders went down to help Chichi Rodriguez open the Dorado resort down in Puerto Rico. And they were going to play a match, and naturally they have to set things on the first tee. And Chichi said, "I'll tell you what, Doug, you've not played the course, I've played it. I'll give you 2 shots, you give me 1 throw." He said, "You got a deal." And as fate would have it, they came to 18. Sanders is in the trap. I'm sorry, Chichi's in the trap. Sanders is on the green. And Sanders kiddingly said, "Hey, Chichi, you haven't used your throw." He said, "You know, Doug, that's right." And he ran out of the trap, up on the green, picked up Sanders' ball, and threw it in the ocean. Such is the game of golf. God bless Arnold Palmer, and God bless the Golf Heritage Society. Thank you.